Thank you, Dr. Burgess. And Mr. Speaker, I rise to urge my colleagues to support the School Access to Emergency Epinephrine Act. This bill will encourage states and schools to take small but meaningful steps to protect school children from anaphylaxis, a severe and potentially fatal allergic reaction that can be triggered by a food allergy or even an insect sting. According to the Food Allergy Research and Education, 1 in 13 children has a food allergy, roughly 2 in every classroom. The bipartisan bill introduced with Congressman Hoyer, and I want to thank Congressman Hoyer profusely today. His staff and my staff worked diligently on this bill to bring it to the floor, and would provide a preference. This bill would provide a preference for asthma-related grants to states that adopt laws to permit properly trained school personnel to administer epinephrine to a student reasonably believed to have an anaphylactic reaction. To obtain a preference, the schools would have to maintain a supply of epinephrine and ensure trained personnel are present to administer. This legislation has been scored by the Congressional Budget Office at no cost to the taxpayer. Our bill simply builds on an existing preference system signed into law in 2004 that helped make student self-administration of epinephrine a reality in 49 states. Anaphylaxis, however, is not always predictable. An individual, adult or child, could have a severe allergic reaction even with no prior history of a food allergy. And I've seen this many times in my practice. Because anaphylaxis can cause death in just minutes, it is essential that epinephrine, the best treatment for anaphylaxis, be readily available for treatment. In most states, however, schools are not required to keep epinephrine stocked in case of emergencies. The result is needless tragedies like that of Amaria Johnson. Amaria was a 7-year-old girl, the same age as my granddaughter, who lived in Chesterfield County, Virginia. On January the 2nd, 2012, she died from cardiac arrest and anaphylaxis as a result of eating a peanut. I had the opportunity to meet Amaria's mother, Laura Pendleton, at a briefing that Mr. Hoyer and I hosted on our bill. Her story is absolutely heartbreaking. As a father and a grandfather, I can't begin to imagine what she had to go through. In response to her death, the Virginia legislature passed what has become known as Amaria's Law, which required public schools in the state to keep epinephrine on hand. But while 28 states now have laws allowing schools to stock epinephrine, the states requiring the same remain in the minority. A set of 2 epinephrine auto-injectors costs about $150 and are good for a year. With new competition in the marketplace to produce what are commonly known as EpiPens, I'm confident the price will come down even further. The training required to use an EpiPen is minimal. School personnel could be trained by an EMT or school nurse in a brief session. The auto-injectors themselves are safe and very easy to use. The needle is covered by a protective sheath and only comes out when the EpiPen is pressed against the leg. To make sure that teachers and other adults working at the school don't have to worry about a lawsuit for doing the right thing, our bill requires, as a condition of receiving preference for asthma-related grants, that the state attorney general reviews existing civil liability protection laws and certifies that they provide adequate protection to the trained school personnel. I would like to thank the Democratic Whip, Mr. Hoyer, who worked tirelessly on this, for being an outstanding partner in this process, and his story with his granddaughter is a compelling one. This has become a bipartisan process at every step of the way, and I would also like to thank Chairman Upton and Mr. Waxman and his staff for helping advance the proposal. My hope is that this bill gives the states a little encouragement to ensure that what happened to Amaria doesn't ever happen to another child. I'd like to thank Mr. Butterfield, and I'd like to thank Dr. Burgess for allowing me to be here this afternoon, and I encourage my colleagues to join in supporting this bill. And I yield back the balance of